Greetings one and all, and welcome to Beyond the Walls, a global ministry of Center Place and Community of Christ in Canada. The archives of the Woodfield Community of Christ in London, Ontario, preserve a preaching chart that was drawn way back in the 1930s. In the beginning of the 20th century, ministers from our church traveled in circuits visiting different congregations, holding cottage meetings and revivals, holding preaching charts that would, holding preaching services that would last hours. So unlike our system today, Beyond the Walls, where the text of each message is written in advance to allow for translation and illustration, most of the preaching at the services in the past was extemporaneous. The speaker would start with a passage of scripture, perhaps a rough outline, and then they would expound from that jumping off point. Preaching charts provided an additional jumping off point, serving as a memory device for the speaker and a visual aid for the audience. The preaching chart at Woodfield is a symbolic representation of the church, which included our own church's understanding at the time of what are the church's essential elements. In the center of the foundation is a block labeled Jesus Christ, Chief Cornerstone, an image taken from Psalm 118, which reads, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone," which is quoted in the Synoptic Gospels, in the letter to the Ephesians, and in 1 Peter as a reference, a messianic reference to Christ. The rest of the edifice of the Church of Jesus Christ is built on this cornerstone. We read that that consists of faith, repentance, baptism, and the laying on of hands, that is confirmation. And then from the church's central tower, we see two great walls supporting windows, the windows of which are labeled on the right side, faith, wisdom, knowledge, discernment, healing. And these are all still windows that are in keeping with how we would look upon the church today, especially if we understand healing as spiritual restoration. The labels to the left are a little less familiar in today's church. They include miracles, prophecy, tongues, interpretation of tongues, and dreams and visions. So our predecessors in the church were far more Pentecostal and engaged in spiritual practices in ways that I would actually consider irresponsible today. Tongues and speaking, interpretation and tongues can be. In the preaching chart, the great foundations for these two walls are labeled Aaronic priesthood and Melchizedek priesthood. And they include the offices of each order of priesthood as understood in our tradition. So to the left, we have priests, bishops, deacons, and teachers, and high priests, 70s, elders, pastors, evangelists, apostles, and prophets are to the right. So speaking at a revival a century ago, a minister could expound at length on all of these offices, and their conclusion would inevitably be that these are the priesthoods and offices established by Jesus himself in the church that he established back in Palestine in the first century, and that these offices are essential to the functioning of the true Church of Jesus Christ on the earth, and that therefore, since our church alone operates with the fullness of this structure, which proves to the satisfaction of the speaker that ours was the one and only true church on the face of the earth. So although these beliefs were earnestly held, they were factually incorrect, I would say, in every respect. Churches that are committed to actual truth need to be able to admit error and apologize in order to truly seek truth. In our study of the New Testament this year, we've seen that at the earliest stratum of the Christian movement, it was spread by committed disciples who sold their property, they gave the proceeds to the poor, and they lived a life of voluntary poverty, begging for their daily bread as they spoke in the Spirit, sharing the gospel. So these committed disciples were alternatively called teachers, apostles, and prophets, all of which were synonyms for each other. In the next generation, as fixed congregations were established, they began to require ongoing local leadership. And so they chose for themselves helpers, in Greek, diakonos, deacons as we call them, and overseers, episkopos, bishops, as they ended up being called, along with presbyters, which the New Testament sometimes translates as elders and sometimes as priests, but really is just one office in the early church. As the apostolic age ended, deacons, priests, and bishops ultimately replaced the apostle, teacher, prophets that had been present at the founding of the church. So if we go back to our preaching chart, we may ask, okay, well, what about evangelists, pastors, 70s? There are references to evangelists in the New Testament in 3 places. So evangelist literally means bringer of good news. And so this again is essentially a synonym for apostle, although later on it's given the technical meaning of somebody who wrote one of the Gospels. Pastor is Latin for shepherd, poimenos in the original Greek, and has a single mention in the New Testament as a priesthood office, likely meant as a synonym for bishop, since this is a later text where bishops have emerged as congregational leaders. The word was revived during the Protestant Reformation as some Protestants rejected all of the evolution of the episcopacy, of how bishops came to be seen in late antiquity and the Middle Ages, and they wanted to have a new term for leaders of congregations that didn't have that baggage. Finally, 70 is not really an office at all. Historically, there were many more than 12 apostles. The 12 were a subset of this much larger group of mendicant teachers, apostles, prophets that are at the earliest stratum of the church. So in the 1830s, early members of our church read a story in Luke where Jesus sends out 70 more disciples after having, in the previous chapter, sent out the 12, and they used that story to create an office that they called 70. So this leaves us with the office of high priest and those 2 priesthood orders, Aaronic and Melchizedek. So members in the 1830s based these on their interpretation of the Epistle to the Hebrews, passages that we're going to focus on today. The author of Hebrews develops an extended argument that contrasts the old covenant of Moses with the new covenant in Christ. At the heart of the old covenant was the Jerusalem temple, and the temple was led by a mortal high priest, a high priest who understood himself anyway to have been descended from the biblical Aaron. And that high priest performed ritual sacrifices once each year on the Day of Atonement to atone for his sins and for the sins of all the people. But this practice, according to the author of the Epistle to the Hebrews, has been superseded by a better covenant. Christ has given himself as an atoning sacrifice for everyone, not just for 1 year, but for all time, and has thus become our eternal high priest. The author of Hebrews quotes Psalm 110 to make his point, and that reads, "You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek," and this becomes the basis for the image of Christ as our eternal high priest. So early members of our church got the idea that we should have two orders of priesthood from this passage in Hebrews, but they clearly misread the point that the author of Hebrews was making. The priesthood of Aaron, with its high priest, that was part of the old covenant and has been done away with. In the new covenant, there is only one high priest after the order of Melchizedek, Jesus Christ, our eternal high priest. So in creating two orders of priesthood and the many offices referenced in the preaching chart, members of our movement believed they were restoring practices as established by Jesus in the first century. Instead, they were creating something new, something that has now become part of our legacy and inheritance in community of Christ. And so as we discern our path forward as a sacred community, we look to the many inheritances that have informed our journey while opening our minds and hearts to new light and knowledge for the road ahead. And as we begin our service, we go now live to Lincoln, Nebraska, where Anton Johnson is here to read our call to worship. Anton, we're so happy to have you with us here on Beyond the Walls.
Thank you, John. Our call to worship is taken from the 5th chapter of the Epistle to the Hebrews, verses 1 through 6, where the author contrasts the mortal high priest, who offered sacrifices on behalf of themselves and the people at the Jerusalem temple each year on the Day of Atonement, with the eternal high priest of the new covenant, Jesus Christ. We read that every high priest chosen from among mortals is put in charge of things pertaining to God on their behalf to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He is able to deal gently with the ignorant and wayward, since he himself is subject to weakness. And because of this, he must offer sacrifice for his own sins, as well as for those of the people. And one does not presume to take this honor, but takes it only when called by God, just as Aaron was. So also, Christ did not glorify himself in becoming a high priest, but was appointed by the one who said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." As he says also in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." Amen.
We call out to you with our hands open wide. Grant us the wisdom your heart can provide. The breeze, flowers, the sunshine too. All of creation singing praise to you. A song of proclamation to end discrimination. Each voice is heard, sung in chorus to you. A song in every nation, declaring jubilation. Blessed are the poor in the kingdom of God. And when the morning wakes us, we celebrate the wonder. And when the evening shakes us, such storms won't pull us under, because we live in your great mystery. We call out to you with our hands open
As we continue, we head out across the Pacific to Polynesia, to Papeete, Tahiti, where Emile Huri is here to offer our invocation. Emile, bonjour.
Yorana, prions. Père éternel, aimant et miséricordieux, en ce jour, nous venons devant toi avec un cœur humble et reconnaissant, avec nos joies, nos espérances, nos fragilités et tout ce que nous portons dans le secret de nos cœurs. Père, nous te rendons grâce pour ton amour infini, pour ta fidélité et pour la grâce que tu nous donnes d'être réunis aujourd'hui. Merci pour le don merveilleux de ton Fils Jésus-Christ, par qui tu nous as révélé ton amour de Père. Seigneur, nous te remercions pour la vie donnée par amour. Merci pour ta compassion, pour laquelle tu ouvres un chemin de réconciliation, de pardon et de vie nouvelle. Père, fais-nous entrer davantage dans le mystère de ton amour. Ouvre les yeux de nos cœurs afin que nous puissions reconnaître ta présence dans nos vies et entendre l'appel que tu nous adresses personnellement. Donne-nous un cœur disponible à ta volonté. Fais de nous des disciples de Jésus, des femmes et des hommes, enracinés dans tes enseignements, conduits par ton esprit et fidèles à la mission que tu nous confies. Enlève de nos cœurs tout ce qui pourrait nous distraire, apaise nos pensées, guéris nos blessures internes et donne-nous un cœur ouvert, attentif et disponible à ta voix. Esprit Saint, éclaire notre intelligence, fortifie notre foi et renouvelle en nous le désir de suivre Jésus. Que ta lumière nous conduise, que ta paix nous habite et ton amour nous transforme. Je suis aimé de Dieu, je suis précieux à ses yeux et ma vie a du sens dans son dessein. Visite, Seigneur, les cœurs qui souffrent, relève ceux qui sont découragés, console ceux qui pleurent, fortifie ceux qui sont éprouvés, ravive l'espérance de ceux qui ne savent plus quel chemin prendre. Sois notre guide, notre lumière et notre paix. Que ton Esprit Saint nous conduise, que Jésus demeure au centre de tout et que le Père soit glorifié en chacun de nos vies. Nous te demandons avec foi et confiance, par Jésus-Christ ton Fils, bien-aimé, notre Seigneur et Sauveur et notre grand Père. Amen.
And as we continue our service, we return now to Canada, to Chilliwack, British Columbia, where Janine McCulley is here to read today's exegetical lesson. Janine, we're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, John. It's good to be here with everybody. Okay, the four Gospels included in the New Testament were composed by anonymous authors towards the end of the first century. The names for which we know them, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, were attached later by Christians in the 2nd century. This is also true for the text we know as the Epistle to the Hebrews. Its title in the King James Version reads, The Epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Hebrews. And it's true that the Epistle to the Hebrews was included in the Bible largely because many early Christians believed Paul was the author. Not everyone agreed. The brilliant 3rd century author Origen of Alexandria pointed out that the diction in the epistle entitled to the Hebrews did not exhibit the characteristic roughness of speech or phraseology that are characteristic of the Apostle Paul himself. The construction of its the construction of its sentence is closer to formal Greek usage, as anyone capable of recognizing difference of style would agree. Origen concludes, who wrote the epistle is known to God alone, and said that some authorities attributed it to Clement of Rome, while others to the author of Luke and Acts. Modern biblical scholars agree that Hebrew could not have been written by Paul himself. Nevertheless, we have reason to believe the text was written by someone in Paul's circle, since the author identifies himself as a companion of Paul's companion Timothy. Other than its final benediction, Hebrews also lacks any of the forms normal in an epistle. It is more like a homily that builds a sustained argument from a single theme. Finally, it's not clear that it may have been written to a Hellenized Jewish Christian population, probably in the 60s AD, before the destruction of Jerusalem Temple in the year 70. Whoever the author of Hebrews was, he is one of the New Testament's most talented authors and profound thinkers. He was fully versed in the Old Testament, repeatedly quoting from the Pentateuch, the Psalms, and the prophets to develop his vision of Christ. If the Hebrews, the non-Christian Jews, were the intended audience, we might expect this to consist of stringing together messianic prophecies to demonstrate that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. Instead, the author develops a remarkably sophisticated Christology. He begins by stating that Christ is superior to the angels and is the heir of all things, the reflection of God's glory, and the exact imprint of God's being as God's Son. As God's Son, Jesus supersedes Moses, who was only God's servant. The author of Hebrews asserts that the new covenant in Christ is appreciably better than the old covenant of Moses. Under the law of Moses, mortal high priests must offer sacrifices every year to atone for themselves and the people. But Christ, the author of Hebrews, insists, by passing through the heavens and being raised to sit at God's right hand, has atoned for us for all time. Finally, as our eternal high priest, Jesus is nevertheless able to sympathize with our weaknesses because he has in every respect been tested as we are.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Beyond the Walls Late Edition. We are back in the Late Edition headquarters in Michigan. I am Noelle Gafka, the pastor of this wonderful community, and I have with me behind the Beyond the Walls handle, John. And this is John's first time taking the lead in the Beyond the Walls mottos. So, throw John a happy hello in the chat. Let him know he's doing a fantastic job. It's wonderful to work with you. Thanks for being here. We have a packed list, and as I'm talking to you, I'm watching the numbers go up. This is absolutely amazing, and one of the reasons that this happens is because you like and share this worship experience. Truly, every time that you like, it invites the algorithms to share this with someone else. And if you pay attention to the chats, you might see almost every single week we have somebody new pop in that says, I don't know how I am here or why I'm here, but this showed up. And it's great. I love it. So keep sharing and liking and keep growing this amazing community. Make sure you stay after for our time of after chats. I may have done a little spoiler alert in our Discord channel. So if you are connected to us on Discord, I might have let you know what we're going to do. If you are not connected to us, I'm going to throw a way in the chat for you to make that happen. The conversation still continues, even though the worship service ends. So join us on Discord and keep the conversation and community going throughout the week. This is such an amazing worship that I'm not going to ramble anymore because I want to make sure that we get back to it and to listen. We have Donna Baldwin with us and Mark as well, but Donna was here at 5:38 Eastern time. You get the first person in the chat, even before us, award. It is good to be with you, my friends. On the west side of the state, we have K1F8 with us. Hello, we've got Wednesday Jones, one of our team members. It is good to be with you. Carter, it's good to be with you always. Hope you are doing well. Nicola is here. We've got Esteban here. Hello to you, my friend. We've got Cheryl with us. Hello to Cheryl. And Mike and Leandro are holding down the fort in Toronto. We've got Paula Strange with us. Prayers coming your way. Thanks for putting that in the chat. We will definitely be thinking of you. My friend Eunice is here. Hello. We have Denise Nicole with us. Hello to you. Jeannie, I think you're still here. Hello to you, Jeannie. We've got Fastball Flakes. This is my second time that I got to be with you today. Hello. Also on the west side of Michigan. We also have Donna Ford. That I got to be with you earlier today too. They let me in the early edition today. I don't know what they were thinking, but I got to hang out with a lot of you already today. It was fantastic. Daniel, Leon is here from Honduras. Hola to you, my friend. Lynn is with us. Hello, Lynn. We've got Bill Mines with us as well. We've got Jeremy Brown, Deborah in New Mexico. We've got Jackie Mueller with us. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone over there on Facebook. We have Flat Rock 79. Hello to you. So happy you're here. Roman is with us from Utah. Larry just popped into the chats. Hello to you, Larry. Jeremy, did I say hi to you yet? I don't know. If I did, yay. If not, I'm sorry I skipped you. Hello to you. We're going to get right back. Layla, my favorite ballerina, is here. All right. You keep popping in. Keep letting us know that you're here. Let us know where you are joining from. It is so fun to be able to see how wide, or I should say, how much around the globe this community goes. It's so fun. And I'm going to see you after the postlude.
And as our service continues, we head back to Lincoln, Nebraska, where Anton Johnson returns, this time to read today's focus scripture.
Our focus scriptures are additional reflections on Jesus' high priesthood, taken from Hebrews chapter 5, verses 7 through 10, and chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. We read that, in the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications, with loud cries and tears, to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered, and having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast to our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin. Let us, therefore, approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Amen.
And now we head across the Atlantic to the United Kingdom, to Glasgow, Scotland, where Jane Christie is here to share today's message. Jane, as ever, we are delighted to receive your ministry today.
I'm so happy to be here. Hi, John. Hi, Leandro. Hi to the whole team. Thank you so much. Well, a few weeks ago, I did something that I don't often get the chance to do. I stopped. I am a full-time carer for my wonderful 27-year-old son, Ronan, who is disabled. Now, people often tell carers that we need to rest. We need to care for ourselves. They're absolutely right. It's also one of those pieces of advice that can be much easier to give than to put into practice. But for a few days, I got to take a trip to London for a break. and I was given the opportunity to stop. That meant sleeping late. One day it meant discovering what I am prepared to defend as the perfect ice cream cone. I spent time in the National Gallery. I sat looking at Monet's water lilies and his bridge paintings for so long that eventually they started talking back, inviting me to look closer, notice the strokes of the brush, how the light rippled through the flowers and across the water. And I went to the theatre a lot. Stopping gave me time to notice each of those moments as they happened. It also gave me some distance from my ordinary life. I think sometimes it's hard to see the patterns of our lives while we're busy surviving inside them. It's a bit like living in a room where the furniture has always been arranged in the same way. You learn to walk around the chair without thinking about it. You know where the table is in the dark. After a while, you stop remembering that somebody put it there. Then one day, you stand in the doorway and think, why is that there? Do I still want it there? Who decided that that was the best place for it? And perhaps most importantly, what in this room do I love and want to keep? Now, I've been thinking about patterns quite a lot. And that may explain why, on my restful trip to London, I chose to spend 4 hours watching a Greek tragedy about murder. I saw a modern production of the Oresteia, the box office smash of the year. The Odyssey has got the world talking about ancient Greek theatre, even if they have never read it, much to the delight of this little theatre geek. The Oresteia comes from that same ancient Greek world and from the aftermath of the Trojan War. So to bring you up to speed, it is, among other things, a story about a family who cannot stop. Now, if you've watched The Odyssey or even seen promotional posters, you will remember that powerful, iconic image of Agamemnon. Agamemnon sacrifices his daughter, Iphigenia. Although the Odyssey movie makes no comment about it, we can safely infer that this act makes Agamemnon not a good guy. So, his wife, Clemenstra, kills Agamemnon. Then their son, Orestes, kills Clemenstra. And now Orestes must himself face justice for killing his mother. Everyone can point backwards. Everyone has a reason. Even Agamemnon. Everyone can say, but look what they did. And that is what I find so disturbing about the story. It is the fairness of it. Now, fairness is important to me. I have a very strong sense of justice. I have been oft-quoted as saying that I will happily threaten to throat punch anyone who hurts one of my friends. And for clarity, I have checked, and throat punching is not one of the responsibilities of priesthood. But that instinct is there. We want things to be fair. Clemenstra has lost her daughter. Orestes has lost his father. People have been betrayed. People have been brutalized. People have been killed. Something must be done. And yet, if justice only ever means that the next person must hurt the last person who caused them harm, nobody gets free. What frightens me in the Orestia is the inevitability. The characters are living inside scripts that tell them what must happen next. And from inside the script, it makes sense. One of the characters I have always been drawn to is Cassandra. Cassandra can see. She can see what has happened. She can see what is coming. She understands the pattern, and nobody believes her. She has already been used by powerful people. Even the supposed blessing of prophecy becomes part of her suffering. After the fall of Troy, she is taken as a prize by Agamemnon, and she arrives as a wife in a household where she knows more violence is coming. She sees the pattern, but she cannot persuade the people around her to see it too. That has made me think about testimony. During my time away, I realized something about myself which I had never really put into words before. One of my blessings is that I find resonance in or belief on the testimony of other people. I imagine that had I heard him, I would have been more interested in Jesus's words, but I think I would have found the testimony of those who knew him to be more compelling. I can listen to somebody describe what they have experienced or what they believe and hear something worth keeping. Now, that does not mean accepting everything everybody says without thought. It means understanding that somebody else may be able to see something from where they are standing that I cannot see from where I am standing. And that matters when we're trying to recognize unhealthy cycles. Sometimes the person who is safest inside a system is the person least able to see the problems with it. And sometimes the person who has been wounded by it can see the pattern very clearly indeed. Now, I saw another story about justice and mercy when I was in London. Les Miserables. Javert knows what justice looks like. Jean Valjean is a criminal. That fact organizes Javert's world. Then something terrible happens to Javert. Valjean shows him mercy, and Javert cannot cope with it. Mercy doesn't simply require Javert to change his opinion of another man. If Valjean can be more than the crime he once committed, Javert may have to reconsider the moral structure on which he has built his life. It breaks him. I think we sometimes speak about transformation as though it should feel wonderful. Sometimes it does, but sometimes changing is painful. Sometimes an old belief was holding up several other things: our identity, our relationships, our community, our feeling of safety. Pull one piece away, and suddenly much more starts moving. Now, I know something about cycles and false safety because I live with obsessive compulsive disorder. When my OCD is flaring up, it tells me, do this one more time, then everything will be all right. Check once more. Seek reassurance once more. Do the thing that makes you feel safe. And the really clever part is that it works. For a moment, I feel reassured. Then my brain learns that perhaps I really did need to perform that action in order to be safe. So the thing I did to escape the anxiety strengthens the very cycle that is causing the anxiety. Now, I am not suggesting that ordinary patterns of thought or religious practice are the same as OCD. They are not. But living with OCD has made me suspicious of anything that promises me certainty if I will just repeat the right action one more time. It has also made me think about faith. Faith can become unhealthy for me when I start outsourcing the place where I trust. When I stop discerning because somebody else can do that for me. When I stop listening because an authority already has the answer. When a routine becomes something I use to make myself feel in control. Even God can become part of that unhealthy pattern if I use God as a way to avoid my own responsibility to think, listen, learn, and choose. And so can priesthood. This brings me finally to Hebrews. I am approaching my own ordination to priest very soon. So I've been thinking quite a lot about priesthood. And I come to this passage with some furniture already in the room. I spent most of my life in the Latter-day Saint tradition. So words like priesthood, high priest, authority, and Melchizedek do not arrive in my mind as empty words. They have capital letters. Priesthood meant power. Authority meant power. High priest meant authority. And Melchizedek meant, frankly, even more authority. That was part of the room in which my earliest faith was formed. And there are things from that room that I still treasure. I still take calling seriously. I value community. I value structure where everyone has a role. I think authority can be important when we understand it as responsibility and accountability. I haven't needed to throw away everything I was given in order to grow. But I have moved some furniture. So I came to Hebrews asking a very natural question as I prepare for ordination. What will priesthood authorize me to do? What power does it give me? And then Hebrews does something rather wonderful. It tells me to look at the high priest, look at Christ. And what do we discover? We do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses. Christ knows weakness. Hebrews goes further in chapter 5. It remembers Jesus during his human life, praying with loud cries and tears. And that stopped me because the furniture in my head said high priest equals higher authority. Hebrews showed me high priest is the one who knows what it is to cry. High priest knows what fear feels like. The high priest knows vulnerability. The high priest knows suffering. And because of that, Hebrews does not tell frightened, imperfect human beings to keep their distance. It says, approach, come to the throne of grace, come boldly. This authority does not close the door. It makes access possible. And suddenly my question about my own priesthood began to feel rather different. I asked, what will priesthood let me do? And when I tried to answer it, strangely, I did not write down any powers. I wrote, notice, listen, stop, change, serve. Perhaps I had been asking the wrong question. Perhaps the more important question is not, what will priesthood let me do? Perhaps it is, how will priesthood shape me? If Christ is already our high priest, I do not get to stand between another person and God. I do not bring Christ into a room as though Christ was waiting outside for somebody with correct authority to let him in. I join Christ and I join other people in a good work that is already being done. I listen, I learn, I create, I serve. And I hope that when somebody encounters my ministry, whatever form that ministry takes, they experience something very simple. It's the thing I hope for when I receive ministry, that someone sees me. I think this matters particularly when we read Hebrews, because Christians have sometimes arranged our theological furniture in ways that have harmed Jewish people. Hebrews uses the scriptures, stories, and sacred imagery of Judaism to understand Jesus. We should be very careful when we turn that into a story in which Judaism simply becomes the failed religion that Christianity replaced. That kind of thinking has consequences. At this moment, Jewish communities here in Britain and around the world are living with very real anti-Semitic hatred and violence. Recent attacks have targeted synagogues, Jewish institutions, and Jewish people. And Palestinian people continue to live with the devastating consequences of war, displacement, and loss. Most people in Gaza remain displaced and humanitarian need remains immense. We should be able to say both things. We must be able to say the word Anti-Semitism, clearly, when Jewish people are attacked because they are Jewish. And we must be able to say Palestine and to see Palestinian people and their suffering. Palestinian humanity does not require Jewish humanity to become smaller. Jewish suffering does not require us to look away from Palestinian suffering. If acknowledging another human being's pain threatens the story I need to tell, then perhaps it is the story that needs examining. Perhaps some furniture needs to move. One of the other things I saw in London was Jesus Christ Superstar. Today has the best soundtrack, doesn't it? This worship is so fun. I first encountered Jesus Christ Superstar when I was young. Except for a few songs, I disliked it very much. The Jesus I understood then needed to fit neatly inside what I already believed Jesus was supposed to be. I did not understand an angry Jesus very well. And I was deeply uncomfortable with the ways Jesus could be used to demand submission or control. This time I watched British musician Sam Ryder, someone I know is a thoroughly lovely human being, take on a role that no human actor could ever fully live up to. And something had changed in me. I did not sit there thinking, that is not my Jesus. I thought, oh, that is a very human way for Jesus to behave. This Jesus loves his friends. His friends love him. And they have almost no idea what to do with one another. They don't know what to say. They cannot always see him clearly. He becomes angry. He does not offer everybody easy solutions. And the musical leaves huge questions unanswered. Even his divinity is not constantly being announced. One of the most intimate moments comes when he speaks to his Father in Gethsemane. I found that I did not need the questions to disappear. I could simply watch this Jesus love. And I adored Judas. Not because I thought everything Judas did was right. I loved him because in this telling of the story, it's about relationship. He loves Jesus. He is frightened. He is trying to protect Jesus and to protect what he thinks this whole movement is supposed to be. And I recognize something. My OCD also tries to protect me. It's just very bad at it. Sometimes the tragedy is not that love is absent. Sometimes love itself becomes trapped inside a script. I have hope for that Judas. And then came the song, Could We Start Again, Please? It took me straight back to the hopeful early days of faith when everything seemed uncomplicated. Love God, love one another, care for people, make peace, build heaven on earth. What a beautiful idea. Could we just go back there? but we cannot. Someone died. The stakes turned out to be higher than we understood. We now know things that we did not know at the beginning. There is comfort in certainty. There can even be comfort in unhealthy cycles because at least we know what comes next. Breaking them leaves us standing somewhere unfamiliar. The Orestian knows that. Javert knows that. Judas knows that. I know that. Our churches know that. Our world knows that. So perhaps, could we start again does not mean pretending that nothing happened. Perhaps starting again does not mean going backwards. Perhaps grace gives us the freedom for what happens next not to be dictated entirely by what happened before. And perhaps that's why I needed to stop, to sleep, to eat an excellent ice cream, to stand in front of Monet until the paintings talked back, to stand in a gallery looking at pictures of Christ, vulnerability, violence, and power, to sit in theatres with ancient Greeks and revolutionaries and a frightened Judas, to notice what it feels like simply to be human. Because the wonder of life, when I can stop long enough to feel what it is to be human, is divine. Christ, our high priest, does not stand somewhere far away from that humanity. Christ enters it. Christ knows what it is to cry. And so as I approach priesthood, I'm left with questions. Perhaps some of them are questions for all of us. What have I inherited that I still treasure? What have I mistaken for permanent just because it was already in the room when I arrived? What am I repeating because uncertainty feels frightening? When does my desire for justice become a desire to hurt back? When does protection become control? Whose testimony am I struggling to hear? Can I allow mercy to change me, even when changing hurts? Can I recognize another person's suffering when doing so complicates my own story? And if Christ is our high priest, who does Christ move towards? And if I'm trying to follow him, who must I move towards? Can I stop? Can I notice? Can I listen? Can I change? Can I serve? Could we start again, please? Not because the past did not matter, not because wounds disappear, not because justice no longer matters, but because Christ, our high priest, knows what it is to be human. And grace means the cycle does not have to get the final word.
Thank you, Jane. We return to Toronto and we will consider some of these questions. Like Jane, let us gift ourselves the opportunity to stop before we go today and offer a few minutes of well-deserved and perhaps long overdue self-care. And notice that when Jane allowed herself to stop, something else happened. She was able to peek at her own life from a different viewpoint, and from there, almost as an outsider looking into her life, She was able to recognize certain patterns that were hard to see while she was, in her own words, busy surviving inside them. So yes, it would be wonderful to travel to London and to see all these plays and art galleries, but you can also get a sense of what happened to Jane if you simply have the intention to pause. Offer some love to yourself and dare to look at those hidden patterns in your life at this very moment. Do you want to do that? So with the intention of pausing, so that you may take care of yourself and discover something new about your own soul, start by breathing in deeply and then breathing out until your lungs are completely empty. And just take a few intentional breaths this way, and don't overdo it. But do pay attention to your exhalation, if anything. Slowing down your exhalation and ensuring you let all the air out will activate your parasympathetic nervous system. A fancy way of saying your mind will be a little bit quieter and more open to risking something new, looking somewhere new. Thoughts, physical sensations, noises, other distractions will continue to compete for your attention. But focusing on your breath can help you create a gap between perception and reaction, if your intention is to pause. Okay? That way you will acknowledge these distractions, but distance yourself from them. Don't deny them, don't try to change how you feel, but you don't go where they're trying to pull you to go. Let's create that gap. And now turn your attention outward. Step outside that room where all the furniture is arranged in a familiar manner, as Jane suggested in her sermon. From the outside, look at this room that is your life, that is your mind, that is your soul. What do you see? And don't be judgmental. This is about becoming aware of things we didn't know were there. And if self-judgment arises, just treat it as any other distraction. Just acknowledge it's there and then let it go. Create that gap. Perception, reaction. And consider once again, now, with a little bit of peace of mind, these questions we heard at the end of the sermon. And now just give time to each question. What have I mistaken for permanent? Simply because it was already in the room when I arrived. And what am I repeating? Because uncertainty feels frightening. When does my desire for justice begin to become a desire to hurt back? When does protection become control? Whose testimony am I struggling to hear? Can I allow mercy to change me, even when changing hurts? Can I recognize another person's suffering if doing so complicates my own story?
go forth with an additional point of contrast between the Old and New Covenants given by the author of Hebrews in chapter 7, verses 22 through 25 and 27, where he writes, Jesus has become the guarantor of a better covenant. Furthermore, the former high priests were many in number because they were prevented by death from continuing in office. But Jesus holds his priesthood permanently because he continues forever. Unlike the other high priests, he has no need to offer sacrifices day after day, first for his own sins and then for those of the people. This he did once and for all when he offered himself. Consequently, he is able for all time to save those who approach God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. Amen. I invite you to stay with us through our postlude. If you're here in the late edition, Noel will be on hand to talk to you about all of these questions. And if you're here in the early edition, I will be chatting with our ministers about them.
I was muted, Carter! I needed you in that moment. Anyways, all you missed was a jolly hello, and we're back together again. Hey, we got some things to talk about. How are we doing? How are things going? What's going on in your world? I want to make sure that we have a moment to talk about the joys from our past week. So, what have you been doing? What's your joy from the week? Or even if it was kind of like a meh week, what was one little highlight? Did you have a really good meal? Did you watch a good show? Did you? Oh, hey. Laurel's got some food going on. I just looked over at the chats for a second. Oh, speaking of chats, actually not chats, but platforms. Hi to our friends on X and Twitch. I see you. I didn't get to say hi to you earlier, but I wanted to make sure I paused and said hello to you. And I forgot to say hi to our friends who come and watch midweek. So hi to you, whoever you are. Thanks for being here. Okay. What joy did you have from this past week? This is something that we've been doing for the last month, starting each time together by sharing our joys. I have a joy that Donna Ford was here in the late edition. I like that. Facebook, how are you doing over there? What joys have you had this week? And this is always that fun moment where as the signals cross, there's this little pause. I'm trying to think. This has been a weird week. It has had moments where I felt like the week was speeding by, and then there were moments when I was like, how are we only on Tuesday? What in the world? So what's going on? Laurel, I am so sorry that you are having to cook up everything in your fridge. Ed is here. Hello. It's good to be with you, Ed. Yay, Ed enjoyed a good flick. I'm happy you had that moment. Fastball Flakes had a song that they found on YouTube and brought you joy. I'm happy you had that moment. Yay. Nicholas says that she had many stupid moments this week, but on the plus side, it's Nicholas' birthday today, so a cake is in the future. Yay! Yay! Yay, yay, yay. Okay, so Nicola, moment of truth here. Since you are the one who makes all the birthday cakes, is somebody making you a cake, or you didn't have to make your own cake today, did you? But happy birthday. I'm glad that we got to talk earlier today, too. We have lots of cakes coming up. What else is going on? What other joys? You really just want me to get into those questions, don't you? Jeremy says, I took my littles to the pool yesterday. The 6-year-old is swimming like a fish, but the 4-year-old has been becoming frightened by it. But I let him hold on to me and float around to acclimate. Wonderful. Yes, Alex! Alex is realizing today's the start of the college football season, and it's 1 week away, and it brought unexpected joy. I'm with you there. As much you might get a couple rambles or two. You just hold on here. But as much as I am mourning the loss of the gardening season, and I do, autumn is my favorite season for many different reasons, but I don't feel, and I know that I've lamented about this already sometime within the last couple weeks, but I don't feel like I've really been able to celebrate the gardening season as much as I would have liked to. And this is a plague that happens every year during this time. So I'm kind of like on the fence right now of excitement for fall and excitement for all the things that come with it, but also just this moment of absolute feeling a loss as it gets colder outside. Deborah in New Mexico says, a huge cottonwood that has grown over my barn was trimmed with great care. Wonderful. And the tortoises had to be blocked in their shelter. I hope they didn't mind and that they got out okay. Nicholas says, some years I have had an ice cream cake because I don't want to make one more cake. But this year I want lemon meringue pie cake. So I'll be involved in the baking. Hold on here. How do you have a pie cake? Teach me this. Enlighten me with the secret. Does the cake have a crust? Teach me. Lemon meringue is my favorite pie, but I can't eat the crust anymore these days. Yes, yeah, I'm glad that Jeremy is also lifting up this question about pie and cake together. Bill says, happy birthday, Nicola. Bill Mine shares birthday greetings. And Bill also says, I went for new glasses this week and we ate at Olive Garden after. I'm glad you had that day trip. And Leandro is saying something that I can't read. Fantastic. This I feel like many of us have just had just one of those weeks that we either can't remember or it's just been kind of meh. But I'm grateful for moments that we can just pause and recognize a little sunshine sometimes. Most of my week was spent driving back from New York, and I'm very grateful that the calendar worked out the way that it did, because I just heard that as soon as I got through the states, that Pennsylvania and the Long Island area got absolutely smacked by storms and tornadoes. And that came right after we came through. So I guess you could say that we created a storm in our wake as we traveled back. They'll probably never invite me back to the East Coast again. Oh, gosh. All right, my friends, because it is already halfway through our after chat time, I want to make sure that we have a moment to talk about all of these wonderful questions that I did not ask you. I emphasized that in the early edition earlier, that there might be somebody else out there that asks lots of questions. And sometimes it is good to be the one that doesn't have to ask them. Kind of share the wealth a little bit with the other question askers. But one of the things that Jane pinpointed was those 5 words that I put into the chat earlier that I wanted us to reflect on in the ways that we can go out into the world and to share and to serve. And something that I wanted us to really reflect on, and I know that I've talked about it before, but sometimes we can get it wrapped up in our minds that only those who have some title with their name, whether it's a priesthood office or ministry title or anything else, only somebody that has that specific title can be the one who is the hands and feet of Christ. And we think, well, who am I to go and to serve? Who am I to go and share ministry of some kind in the community because I have not been ordained, or because I have not been to seminary, or because I have not, we can create long lists of all the things that we have not, cannot, or, whatever we want to think about with that. And I always want to pause to say that's not true. That we can share and are sharing, and currently are sharing in the chats ministry with each other. So when we think about ways that we can share and share in ministry, remember that. And that's why I wanted us to focus on the enduring principle of all are called. because it's such a powerful, and these are my words, but it's such a powerful realization that truly all are called, especially in Community of Christ. There's not a select few based on family or lineage or succession or whatever it may be, who gets to serve. All are called, and we each pause, are invited to pause and let the Spirit guide us to what that calling may be. And the beautiful thing about it is, in our uniqueness, in our diversity, it's probably not going to be the same as someone else. And so we celebrate that. We don't say, well, I'm never going to be like that person, so I can't go and do what they're doing. Good. It's good that you're not going to be like that person. You're not going to serve in that way, that you're not going to feel inspired in the same ways as that person, because you are not them. And I know that we've talked a little bit about imposter syndrome in here, and we lift that up and recognize that in our humanness, we can get trapped in that mentality. But then when we have moments like this, where we recognize maybe our own authority or power to use words that came from the message, our own calling, our own ability to notice, to listen, to stop, to change, and to serve, we then find what it means to truly be the hands and feet of Christ. There, how about that for a ramble for you? Okay, I'm seeing lots of lemon curd. Y'all are making me hungry over here. So the first question I have for you, and we're going to come back to the notice, listen, stop, change, and serve. But the first question I have for you is, what does it mean to you that all are called? I'm going to read you, and I shared the link already in the chats, but I'm going to read you what Community of Christ says. And it's okay if you're like, yeah, I believe that, that's fine. But I also want to know what you think it means. So Community of Christ, when we say all are called, that God graciously gives people gifts and opportunities to do good, and Jesus Christ invites us to find joy in our lives by expressing our giftedness, by becoming disciples who share his life and ministry. As disciples, we respond faithfully with the help of the Holy Spirit to our best understanding of God's call in our lives. So what does it mean to you that all are called to serve? How have you noticed a calling in your life? Ed, that's true. Ed says, some churches give official callings. They absolutely do. And you know what? Layla had posted in our Discord earlier, and I want to make sure I share that, because I thought, I hope you don't mind. But I thought what you shared was really nice. And the bonus about Discord is you don't have to keep it under so many characters. You can type out paragraphs. So I want to share with you what was shared earlier. And Layla emphasized the one sentence that I already shared, that Jesus Christ invites us to find joy in our lives. And she says, there's a lot in this sentence, that Jesus wants us to express our individual giftedness. And he had so much experience with this with the early apostles, thinking about John, and later as well with Joseph Smith Jr. I like how it concludes this invitation by saying, expressing our giftedness as disciples who share his life and ministry. I read that as a call for us to use our gifts, whether it be as small as picking up an apple that falls at the grocery store so it's not wasted, or as big as utilizing our education or status to better our communities. It feels like we should do all with Christ's mission in mind. I appreciate that you shared that. I think I forgot. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Fastball. Fastball, if you're still here, sorry. Have a wonderful week. So what does all are called mean to you? Is it an invitation that you feel willing to connect to, or is it kind of scary? Like, ew, now I might have to actually go and do something with this. I just saw Leandro yelling at me on the YouTube chats. For our friends who are not on YouTube and you're wondering why I'm just silently snickering at the camera, Leandro just yelled in all caps on YouTube. Ed says, callings are referred to as inspired by the Spirit, but I can feel the Spirit when not in a calling and look after others. Thank you. Jeremy says, I would not have identified it as a call at the time, but I found center place through a call to learn more about the history of thoughts that make up our culture. I started engaging with churches to learn about Christianity. Ooh, that is a call. It says whether they are Manchester United fans, eek, or Newell or Old Boy supporters or worse, we should filter through our biases. Oh, my, that's fantastic. Bill says all are called includes everyone. That is so beautiful. It is beautiful. I agree. Absolutely. And I have heard, here we go, ramble number 2 here. You asked for rambles. Over time, one of the things that I've had the gift to do, and it was a gift for me, was to sit with those who were called to a specific office of priesthood, and they were debating whether or not to accept it. And that's one of the unique things as well is in Community of Christ, if somebody is called to a specific priesthood responsibility, they have the ability to say no. And it's not a guilt trip or anything like that. It's not like, well, you're going to get demoted to the back pew now because you said no. It truly is a personal journey for each person to decide whether or not that is something that they want to do. And in the times of discerning and praying with people who have been called to different offices, something that I have heard a couple different times over the years are those who said, I can't believe, knowing my life, knowing what I've been through, where I've come, what I've gone through, that I would be considered for this, that God would choose me. And it truly is beautiful, Bill. That's saying, I'm emphasizing what you said there, that we recognize that we truly all are called. In all of our messiness, in all of our unpreparedness, and all the times when we're like, really, now you choose this moment of my life right now to say, hey, come and follow me. Thanks. How about 5 years ago when I felt more put together? But instead, even in our messiness, we get called to serve. Laurel says, I found that serving also includes receiving feedback about how my service is perceived. Was I effective in what I was trying to do? I like that thought. Nicola has a question. Nicholas says, in community of Christ, can a person volunteer themselves for a specific calling or priesthood ordinance? Is that looked at sideways? So in community of Christ, we receive specific priesthood callings through the Spirit. So a person might say, I'm feeling called to act, to serve in the office of, let's say, deacon. That doesn't mean that that person's automatically going to enter the priesthood into that office, but it might be an invitation for that local leadership to pray on it. Maybe by them saying, I'm feeling this calling, it might be a way that the Spirit is inviting people to stop and to pray and to discern and consider it. But it's not like a sign up type situation where someone just says, today I would like to be the deacon. Now you can fulfill the responsibilities of greeter and to help in different ways, but the Spirit moves in such a way to invite the leadership. So if it's at a local level, a congregation, the pastors might feel inspiration for a person to be called to a local ministry office, or greater, if it's a mission center president, would be one who would receive a calling for a different office. Alex, I see your note there. Alex says, I found that callings can be a little intimidating at first, but can be great opportunities to grow and to develop in serving others. Thank you. Yeah. It can be intimidating at first, for sure. It's like starting a new job sometimes. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I not break something today? How do I get through this and not get fired? That's pretty much the question I ask every day when I wake up. How can I not get fired today? Leandro says, calling in community of Christ is different from how it works in other Christian denominations. There are pros and cons. Yes, absolutely. K1F8 says, do you have to pass a background check? Well, yes. And each country has, I see that Leandro just replied, in Canada now sort of yes. So each country has their own laws that they follow when it comes to background checks. But there is something that all people who are volunteering, whether they are volunteering in a calling in a priesthood office, or in a calling as someone who helps out around the congregation, any person who is doing any sense of task, I guess to say, has to be safe to be around children. So all of the ministry, all the volunteers, everyone gets run through the legal system to make sure that they are safe to be around all people and children. And we really want to make sure, as Leandro just says in YouTube, especially for people who work with children, or what Canada defines as vulnerable persons. So yes, we make sure that people are safe together. Yeah. Leandro is clarifying by saying vulnerable persons in Canada are groups that have been targets of abuse. So I'm grateful that you are sharing that. For sure. Well, how else? I'm going to come back to this. How else might you have felt a sense of stirring or calling, or maybe a nudge to go and do something, or to help out, or to volunteer, or to give back, whatever terminology works best to pay it forward. How have you maybe felt a little nudge and responded to it? By the way, it is 7:50 Eastern Time, and it is getting dark, and I'm not ready for that yet. I am on rant number 2 about the changing times. Bill says taking priesthood classes, called or not, educates us on the role of that office. I'm so grateful that you mentioned that. Yes, so we have the ability to take different classes together and to spend time reflecting a little bit deeper on what various priesthood offices are. So I love that we have the ability to learn together. Yeah, Ed said some callings include doing Sunday school or biblical education in the mornings before school. Absolutely. Some we could consider our friends who help us with welcoming ministry or chat engagement or mods as a calling as well. Cooler temperatures is less sweating, a moment of glee for Nikolai. Yay! I love this. I love this. Awesome. So how might, I'm going to throw this out there, how might you respond if you were called? Like right now, in this moment, if suddenly the heavens opened and a voice came down and said, "You there, I want you to go and do this." How might you respond? Would you laugh and walk away and be like, yeah, I gotta stop drinking so many Diet Cokes? Would you accept it? Would you spend some time with it and wrestle with yourself as you decide whether or not to accept? Oh, geez, Ed. You're going to make me have to think. Can't believe you're turning the table and asking me a question. Friends who are not on YouTube, Ed just said, Noelle, tell us your favorite experience or calling. I can think of how to answer this. Alex says, I would not say no to a new calling right away. I would take time to think about it, which usually leads me to say yes. Hey. Ed says, Mike, you were called to be an organ player. How did you feel? Mike, I'm not the only one in the hot seat right now. You are. Nicholas says, if the calling is teacher, yep, good to go. Priest or elder or bishop or 70 or evangelist. Oh, wow. No, so much no. Roman. Hi, my friend. Roman says, I would tell my closest friends and ask them to pray with me about it. I like that. It's always good to have support. I'm not deflecting. Jeremy says, education is so important. In the US, I feel like culturally, we have devalued education. I would like to develop some sort of supplemental system, possibly involving in-person board games with students of all ages. Ooh. I'm intrigued what that would look like. Layla says, I think I would see it as a privilege. All right, Ed, I'm going to ask a question on your question. Are you wanting me to answer I guess in which way? I'm trying to think. Like when you say favorite experience, do you mean like in serving the church over time, a favorite experience I had doing that, or a favorite moment of when I was called? I guess I don't know how to answer. So I'm going to ask you a question about your question. How would you like me to answer? Jeremy says, I guess I've been feeling that calling in the back of my mind for a little bit now. I love that you are recognizing that and that you are spending some time to envision what that might look like. I love that. Ed says, both. Sure. How much time do we have? How many rambles have I already gone on so far? Deborah says, my calling is to send notes to shut-ins. I love that you do that. Absolutely love that. Bill says, through the years, I've taken 51. Wanting to understand better. Bill has taken 51 courses. Maybe, Bill, you need to start teaching us what you have learned in some of these courses. Oh gosh, favorite experiences. So I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So I was first called to the office of priest, to the Aaronic office of priest, when I was 16 years old. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, because then a lady will have to share her age, and we never do that. So just a wee little teenager, not totally understanding what that meant, but so exhilarated and so excited, because something that's unique about this space where I live is many, many moons ago, before Community of Christ had mission centers, which were the ways that the area congregations were organized. So let's say in Michigan, we have the Michigan Mission Center, and that just huddles all of the congregations in Michigan together. Or we have the Canada Mission Center, which is all of the congregations in Canada. Before we had the mission centers, we had what we called regions. They were the exact same thing, just a different name. So the Michigan region office was here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, because we are right in the middle of the state. It made sense. I still drive by the old building, and there's a faint seal where the church's seal used to be on the side of the building. And because the region office was here, there was a lot of turnover of church employees and church officials that came through and would stay for a little bit before they were called elsewhere, and then the families would move, and then somebody else would come in to be the president of Michigan, and then their family would move. So I had a lot of opportunity to have experience with church staff in that way. And there was something about me being able to experience that I remember back into my elementary school age of sitting in a church pew, watching one of them give the morning message and think, I want to do that. You know, like a 9-year-old Noelle going, I want to do that when I grow up. We can say that was a calling then, but I don't know. So it was always something that I felt that I wanted to do. And there was always this dream that I wanted to work for the church one day. So then when I was 16 and received a call to the office of priest, it was almost like there was a part of me in my juvenile mind going, oh, dreams can come true. This stuff can actually come true. It's not just fairy tale. And I was so excited. There was not even a moment of me pausing and wondering if I was going to say yes. It was like, yes, that's great. And they even said, we're not going to accept your yes right now. We want you to spend time thinking about it to make sure that this is the appropriate direction for you in your life. And because I was still a kiddo, they had invited my parents to think about it as well, because one, I was still a minor, but also that my parents, we wanted to make sure that it was appropriate for me and all of the extracurriculars that I had, and to make sure that I understood what a responsibility it was. It wasn't just a cool kid thing. It was something that was really going to change my life. And my answer didn't change at all. And so I waited for an appropriate time and came back and said yes again. And I've had a couple different callings throughout my time, and to now the office of 70, which I love sharing with our friend John Hamer. And something that I kidded earlier about is that the 70 we're the black sheep of the priesthood offices, but it's such a gift to be able, for me, to be able to do this as a job, and I'm so grateful. Yeah. So I've had lots of journeys, and very, very grateful to be able to do this and to spend time with you guys. I'm just catching up on chats here real quick because I rambled. Yeah. I got some pretty good skincare treatment there, Jeremy. I make sure I keep the wrinkles at bay since I'm apparently 70. That was moons ago. I'm still loving this idea of a lemon meringue cake pie cake thing. My dears, we are to the end of our time. So that means that we have to say goodbye until next week. But I want to really invite you, and I know that we didn't get to come back to those words, so I'm going to share this now, and I'm going to retype them into our chat here. Because here is our homework. And I'm going to make sure that we all get to hear it, not just the friends on Discord. Yeah, y'all got lucky last week because I was on the road. We didn't have homework last week. Okay. These 5 things that Jane listed in her sermon as an invitation to notice, to listen, to stop, to change, and to serve. How might those words guide you throughout the week? How might you be invited to notice something in your surroundings? Maybe it's something that you overlook and you just now realized it was there. Maybe it's a person that you overlook and you are being invited to actually notice. How might you notice in this next week? How might you listen? How are you being called? Where is this in the Spirit? Let me try that again. Where is the Spirit inviting you to go? Who is sharing something with you or has been sharing something with you that you just haven't listened to before? How might you be invited to stop this week? In what ways might you pause? What are you invited to change? Is it something within you, or are you invited to be the change? How might change be a part of your week? And lastly, how might you serve in this next week? How might you serve others? How might you allow yourself to be served? Ooh, that's a hard one. I look forward to hearing how it goes. The lectionary. We have been sharing the lectionary on Discord in our midweek moments with questions of reflection. So yeah, just another plug to come and join the conversation on Discord. But otherwise, notice, listen, stop, change, and serve. May you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you for your time, for being here, for sharing, for being vulnerable, finding strength, and maybe even sharing your food and recipes a little bit. That's what makes this community wonderful. Until we meet again, I love you, and I'll see you soon.